When a legacy manufacturer decides to go in the full EV direction, there's going to be questions that will be asked by many consumers who are loyal to that specific brand. They're going to be wondering, is the technology going to be a huge leap from what I'm accustomed to? Or is the driving dynamic going to be so different that I may have to look elsewhere for the same type of driving style that I'm looking for? Now, Cadillac has decided to go full EV by the end of the decade, but their philosophy is going to be a bit different than others, where they decided to craft, engineer, and design Cadillacs first, but they just happen to be electric and futuristic. If this is your first time hopping into the EV world, you may find the Lyriq to be a great transition from your gas-powered model, and I think that's what Cadillac is trying to do here, where if you have owned an XT5, XT6, or CT4 or CT5 in the past, you're going to find yourself right at home with the Lyriq. So in this video, we're going to go over everything about this EV. Check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a test drive, and also see why, if you're not satisfied with the Ford Mustang Mach-E or Volkswagen ID4, and you want something a bit more luxurious, then maybe taking a look at the Cadillac Lyriq might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Colonial Cadillac of Woburn in Woburn, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Cadillac inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. General Motors has been in the EV and hybrid game for a while now, having produced the Bolt for a number of years, and even Cadillac offering a plug-in hybrid with the ELR last decade. But up to this point, we hadn't yet seen a mass-produced luxury electric car that could directly compete against Tesla, Audi, and BMW, until the Lyriq hit showrooms in late 2022. What this crossover represents is more than just turning the page to a new chapter and era for the brand, but rather a potential re-emergence as a premium luxury American manufacturer that could very well dominate this segment moving forward by redefining what American opulence in the automotive world looks like in the modern age. Starting off with pricing, the Debut Edition comes in at just under $60,000 to start, putting the Lyriq at the inflection point between EVs like the Ford Mustang Mach-E and luxury crossovers such as the new Mercedes EQE SUV. Not only is Cadillac's first real contender in this segment placed at a very reasonable price point, but the overall dimensions of the Lyriq puts it in the mid-size luxury crossover market, with a length of around 197 inches and a width of 78 inches, outclassing most rivals in terms of road presence, and would be comparable in size to the Tesla Model X. The lower roofline also adds a streamlined silhouette, and really at first glance, this Lyriq looks like a concept car as it glides past you on city streets. Making it appear to be car-like, the ground clearance is 7 inches, which is typical for most EVs out there today. But this crossover will certainly only see pavement throughout its ownership history, as the gloss black trim for the fenders and wheel arches will steer you away from getting this Cadillac dirty. Where the Lyriq impresses and quite frankly stuns the most is with its futuristic styling, and since having an active grille is unnecessary with the lack of an internal combustion engine under the hood, the design team got creative. As you approach the Lyriq, all the lights from the turn signal indicators to the LED daytime running lights and headlights and the grille itself do an interactive light show with elements taken from the Escalade that we had featured a few years ago. Falling in line with the rest of the Cadillac lineup, there are cosmetic styling cues that you'll be accustomed to seeing on your gas-powered model, and paying homage to the past is the chrome accents that gives the Lyriq a classy and sophisticated appearance. Lastly, and a minor touch that elevates the design even further, the Cadillac emblem also illuminates, which overall aesthetically pushes the brand to new heights, as we've never seen Cadillac go into such detail before with their gas-powered vehicles. Moving over to the side profile, the Debut Edition we have today is sitting on $1,500 22-inch dynamic split-spoke reverse rim alloy wheels, but 20s do come standard. Despite the larger tire size, we didn't notice a diminished ride quality. However, they may take away from overall range, which is worth considering when buying an EV. On the driver's side will be your charging outlets, and by pressing on the Cadillac emblem, the door will open electronically. The same goes for when you open the door, as design trends are shifting away from traditional handles in favor of more futuristic methods to hammer home that EVs are new and exciting. You'll have gloss black folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, the light show continues for the rear fascia as the taillights wrap around the C-pillars and work their way into the liftgate. Interestingly enough, both the main and secondary lights are home to the indicators, which isn't typically seen on vehicles with split housings. As captivating as the front fascia is, the sportback design with the gloss black contrasting accents makes the Lyriq look very upscale, and with the sharp yet free-flowing body lines, we're getting a glimpse of what the next generation of Cadillac products will be like, while in the present, setting this EV apart from all the other vehicles in the lineup to make a bold statement to competitors. Powering the Lyriq we have today is a single electric motor, producing 340 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. And with a sub 6 second 0 to 60 time, this EV does have an adequate amount of performance that should satisfy buyers' cravings for a quick crossover. With models equipped with dual electric motors arriving at dealers this year, obviously straight line speed will be more comparable to rivals both in the mainstream and luxury markets, and having all-wheel drive over rear-wheel drive will likely appeal to shoppers in colder regions of the US. However, for what's considered to be a base model for the Lyriq, its on-road demeanor is more reflective of an EV priced around $80,000 instead of its $60,000 price tag. Even better, the Debut Edition has a range of 312 miles on a full electric charge, with the ability to charge at home or at a DC fast charger, in which you can get 76 miles of range in just 10 minutes. Stepping inside, you're greeted by an interior that certainly took inspiration from the Cadillac Escalade, with a 33-inch curved digital gauge cluster and head unit, giving the Lyriq the futuristic cabin it needs to compete in this ever-growing segment. It doesn't take long to acknowledge the attention to detail to the dashboard, center console, door panels, and seats, as your initial impressions experiencing this EV for the first time will likely cause you to do a double take at the sticker, because at first glance, the driving environment seems too upscale for the segment. The heated, ventilated, and massaging leatherette seats are plush, with bolstering not being too aggressive, but without question, supportive. Much like we see from European brands, the controls to adjust the front seats are mounted on the door panels, which is more convenient to use than having to reach down like most vehicles. In front of you, this display will be familiar if you've driven or owned the new Escalade recently, and by using the touch-sensitive icons found on the far left, you can customize this display to your liking and change the layout, analyze efficiency and your digital tachometer, and also turn your headlights on or off, putting most of the functions on screens rather than through physical buttons. Then moving over to the infotainment system, you'll have an all-new touchscreen that will be making its way on other Cadillac products in the near future. And while you do receive Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, this user interface is Google-based, and we'll be seeing more of this from GM down the road. Standard is the 19-speaker AKG sound system, with speakers mounted in the headrests to amplify the audio of your favorite music. Great to see for this next generation of Cadillac vehicles is that the rotary dial and quick access buttons return to pair up with this infotainment system, helping out with the learning curve new buyers will experience, as its user interface is very thorough and in-depth, and will be home to key settings such as the one-pedal drive function, park assist, and drive mode selector. While you can adjust the climate control through the touchscreen, mounted below is the row of physical buttons to adjust airflow, the dual zone temperature, AC, and front and rear defrosters. Lastly, you will have the ability to customize the ambient lighting to help set the mood, and as expected, you will have a variety of camera angles to choose from to provide better visibility when parking the Lyriq. Typical for an EV, there'll be a number of storage spaces, including on the dashboard itself, for a smartphone or smaller items, and beneath the center console, you could probably store a bag or two if you're running errands. There will be a wireless phone charging pad conveniently placed between the front seats. And for the center storage compartment, you'll have enough room for loose change or a wallet. Then to round out the front seating area, above will be a massive panoramic glass roof that brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now moving on to the second row, Cadillac claims when it comes to legroom you'll have 39.6 inches, which does outclass the Ford Mustang Mach-E, Volkswagen ID.4, and Audi e-tron crossover. It does get outclassed by the Tesla Model Y, but we're going to find out that the Cadillac Lyriq is designed for a completely different buyer, someone who isn't purchasing a Tesla and is looking for something a little different, but also maybe someone who is buying an EV for their first time. I gotta say, there is a lot of interior space back here, and because the Cadillac Lyriq has the dimensions of a mid-size crossover, you certainly feel that, where you can just relax and stretch your legs, and you're gonna be very comfortable back here. Also, these seats provide a good amount of support and bolstering as well, which will keep you in place, but also make you very comfortable. Now, even with the lower roofline, you do have a good amount of headroom. I do think, though, that if you're on the height of maybe 6 feet tall and above, you might hit your head on the headliner, even with the massive panoramic moonroof. But outside of that, there's still a lot of interior space back here where I don't think people will feel claustrophobic or cramped. Then moving on to the center seat, there isn't really an aggressive center hump or a lip at all. So I think you could actually fit a third person back here, no problem, especially with the amount of shoulder room you actually have. So this is actually a very family-friendly vehicle if you are looking for an EV at around $60,000. This is far more spacious than what I've seen with the Ford Mustang Mach-E and Volkswagen ID.4, and this would be comparable if I was to compare it to a gas-powered model in the Cadillac lineup. This would feel similar to an XT6. And then on the driver's side, this seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have an abundant amount of legroom here where I can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the driving experience. Also, the way these seats are positioned, they are reclined a bit, so that does maximize the amount of headroom you have in this vehicle. So really impressive for Cadillac's first EV in the 2020s. Also back here, you do have two rear air vents to go along with two USB-C inputs, and also a three-pronged outlet, which is interesting to see in a vehicle in this segment. And rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with two cup holders. Now coming around to the back, unlike most crossovers, the button to open the liftgate is not here. Instead, it's the emblem itself. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 28 cubic feet of room, which doesn't sound like a lot for a vehicle of this size, and some people have made that argument. However, this does fall right in line with the Ford Mustang Mach-E, Volkswagen ID.4, and other crossovers in this market for this model today. At around $60,000, the only real competitor that's going to outclass the Cadillac Lyriq would be the Tesla Model Y. Now, I was able to fit all my camera gear today, no problem. So I has 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod, and still had enough room to stack on even more items or go grocery shopping afterwards. If you are going on a road trip with the family, I think you'll be able to fit probably 5, 6, possibly 7 or 8 bags of luggage back here, since this cargo area is deceptively wide. Then with the second row seats full, you're looking at right on 60 cubic feet of room, which once again falls in line with other EVs in this market and price range. So if you're looking for a practical EV that also has a range of over 300 miles, the Cadillac Lyriq is going to be a great option for you. On top of that, beneath the floor mat, you will find another storage compartment for some larger items, including a couple bags, maybe even a first aid kit, or some electronics like an iPad or a couple of laptops. This cargo area is pretty deep, so you can store quite a lot of items back here. Also, to lower the second row seats, you will have 2 buttons on the left side of the rear cargo area, and by pressing down on them, the second row seats will fold automatically and conveniently. Also back here, you do have a rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. And then once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. So the development team for Cadillac, when they designed this vehicle, they wanted to make it a Cadillac first and an EV second. And that really has been a concern for a lot of people who prefer gas-powered vehicles, because sometimes EVs take a lot away from the driving experience. Cadillac has always been known as being a luxury brand, and as we're going to find out throughout this test drive, the Lyriq is luxury first. It's not necessarily going to be like a Tesla. It's not going to even feel like a BMW iX. This is more of an experience for somebody who has owned an XT5, XT6, and possibly other EVs as well, such as the Ford Mustang Mach-E, or maybe even a Chevrolet Bolt. This would be a logical upgrade in that regard, and the pricing, in my opinion, is fantastic. I have no idea if it's just because of the sticker shock from Ford with the Mustang Mach-E and also the F-150 Lightning, where I feel like the Cadillac Lyriq is almost too affordable and not really priced to be a luxury vehicle. But at the same time, the way this vehicle has been designed, the way the interior wraps around you, and just the quality overall, this feels very much on par with the BMW iX. Now, of course, 0 to 60 times are going to be in the 5-second range, so it's not going to be the quickest EV out there. However, I love the smooth acceleration, very linear acceleration, but also since we only have the one electric motor, you feel all the power coming from the rear. And I believe this is my first ever EV review that I've done where it does not have the dual electric motor. So this is a whole new experience for me. Nice turning radius. It's not a violent propulsion, so you do feel some pushback in your seat, but it's not like what you see from Tesla. Now, the thought process here is that if you hop into a Lyriq, it's going to feel like every other Cadillac you've ever owned or driven. But dare I say that in 2023, I think this is the most comfortable vehicle in the Cadillac lineup. I think a lot of it is because of the weight of the battery and the electric motor. And I noticed that with a lot of EVs that they tend to ride a little bit more smoother and more comfortable than their gas-powered variants or gas-powered counterparts. But this really does drive phenomenally well. Let's test out the regen braking. Oh, super strong. Super strong. I'm not even on the brake here. I'm just using the paddle. Wow. It comes to a complete stop. That's more than what you can say from Mercedes-Benz with the EQS SUV and the EQB. Really enjoying the performance as well. Super quiet in here. There is a little bit of that fake noise getting pumped into the cabin, but it's not so loud where I'm going to get sick of it on a longer drive. Also, interior insulation is really good for a vehicle in this price range. You don't hear a lot of the outside world. Also, there's not a lot of wind noise either on this very windy day. So if you're driving this on a longer commute, you feel very isolated being behind the wheel. Now, also another thing too that is a bit impressive here for an EV, and especially one that does look almost car-like, even though it is being marketed as a mid-size crossover, is just how high up you sit in the Lyriq. You have a nice commanding feel and presence over the roadways, and even the way this vehicle is designed, you can see everything immediately in front of you. Also, nice panoramic view in front of you. A-pillars are rather thin. Now, they might create a bit of a blind spot when you are approaching an intersection, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. Then looking at your side mirrors, they are somewhat small, but I can see what's in my blind spots. And then looking out back, because the Lyriq has more of that sport back rear end, the rear window is a bit smaller, so just take that in consideration because the rear seats are kind of getting in the way there when it comes to rear visibility. However, you do have a digital rear view mirror on this model, so that really takes away some of the disadvantages of having that sport back rear end, so I can see everything clearly behind me. Now, I gotta be honest here, as I'm stuck at this intersection, I love the infotainment system layout, and we're going to see a lot more of this in Cadillac products moving forward. I believe the XT5 is getting a similar interior layout, and that's a game changer for Cadillac in my opinion, because for so long they've been using the same GM technology, and it does look outdated. Just does not fit in the segment, where this right here is very futuristic, very classy and stylish, and it really fits the design of this vehicle for sure. Also, another thing too is that the way the center console is and the fact you have more of this storage area, that is so typical for a lot of EVs right now, including the BMW iX. One thing I will say though is I'm having difficulty trying to figure out where the Lyriq fits in the EV segment, because with a starting price at around $60,000, you could cross-shop this with a Ford Mustang Mach-E, top-trim Volkswagen ID4, maybe even the new Nissan Ariya, and possibly the Tesla Model Y. Although this vehicle is the same dimensions and the same size as a Model X. But still, for its price point, I think you're getting quite a bit here. And then also tack on the tax rebates. So you are getting this vehicle for a reasonable price. And then also take in consideration that the standard range on this model is around 308 miles. That's fantastic. Because if you were to compare this to the Lexus RZ, the RZ only gets around 200 miles of range. So Cadillac right now has a superior product for its price point, especially when it comes to just the interior itself. I think buyers are going to love the infotainment system. They're also going to love the layout itself more so than the Mustang Mach-E, because there's been a lot of criticism towards that. Whereas the way the Cadillac Lyriq is designed, the way the interior feels, this feels a lot more expensive than $60,000. Now, hopefully at some point in the future, maybe later this year, I'll test out a 2024 model, because there are some changes, especially when it comes to the trim levels and the packages. But right here for a debut edition, this is really great to see. So we're going to spend a brief portion of this test drive on the highway, see what highway speeds are like. Plenty of passing power. There's a lot of torque on demand when you are cruising on the highway. And it feels pretty composed on the roadways. As a typical EV, it has a lower center of gravity, even though you do sit pretty high up. It has a traditional crossover SUV feel from Cadillac. Road noise really isn't that bad. I am on a different style of pavement here on this highway, and some of that is translating to the interior, but even with the larger wheels, it's not that bad at all. But as a highway cruiser, it's pretty comfortable. Very comfortable. Feels very much at home here. While not the sportiest, it is pretty competent, but also very natural if you are hopping in from a gas-powered model. So you're not dealing with the amazing amounts of torque that you would feel with a typical EV. Now, of course, this is only rear-wheel drive, so I'm pretty sure the dual electric motors will feel very different than what I'm experiencing right now. But if you are looking at buying a rear-wheel drive Lyriq, this is pretty smooth all around and does feel very much like a gas-powered vehicle, at least as much as an EV can feel. Nice handling characteristics here. I am feeling some body roll though. Nice firm steering. There's not a lot of feedback, which I really wouldn't expect for a vehicle in this market, but there is some play here. Pretty impressive for a vehicle that Cadillac is marketing as being luxury first. So even if you're gonna say, well, the Lyriq isn't as powerful or as exhilarating as a Tesla, This does feel similar to the Ford Mustang Mach-E Premium that I had reviewed a couple of years ago in terms of the performance, where when you need that power, it's not lacking. And personally, I think this is more than enough for the average EV buyer. I do think that we're getting a little overboard with how much power and torque is in these vehicles, especially for people who are not coming from sports cars, who never experienced actual torque and a lot of horsepower. And even like people who are driving that Tesla over there, they're cruising at 50, 55 miles an hour. They're probably never using that performance at all. So while I could say that it's a gimmick and it's more of a selling point more than anything else, rather than something you actually be using on a daily basis, with Cadillac, this is exactly what you would expect from a Cadillac EV. This is not deviating away from the brand's heritage at all. Now, of course, I would like to see a V version of this where you do get some exhilarating performance, and that's probably what they're going to do by 2030, especially since Cadillac is going to go all electric by the end of the decade. So I'm not going to be worried about that at all, at least for right now in 2023. But if this is going to be your first ever luxury EV and you're not too thrilled with what's out there, whether it's from Audi, maybe even Jaguar with the I-Pace, or even the Ford Mustang Mach-E, Volkswagen ID.4, I think the Cadillac Lyriq, especially at its base price, is a fantastic option. And at highway speeds, what I am noticing, it has that typical Cadillac ride, where it's not floaty, you're not really feeling like you're on a boat, but it still has that softness to the suspension. This is not a foreign experience to an XT5 or XT6. This is truly a Cadillac product for sure. And that might be an advantage for Cadillac, because with vehicles like Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, you expect a certain type of performance, you expect a certain style of handling, and also interior quality. And while I have praised the EQS in the past, and that's really compared to this, is about a $60,000 difference, at least that model was, to this Lyriq. When you're looking at spending $60,000 or even the $70,000 price bracket, it feels like the iX. It feels like other premium luxury vehicles in the EV market. And it's amazing that Cadillac was able to do this, because I think for many years, the argument could be made that Cadillac was falling behind. You know, I think a lot of people who were looking for a certain type of driving experience would go BMW, especially for the performance side of things. And then also with technology, Cadillac was lagging behind. Now, I do think the CT4V, CT5V, and the Cadillac Escalade and the Escalade V changed the game for the brand right now in the 2020s for gas-powered models. But the rest of the lineup, I think you could definitely make the case that they're not the best options in their segments. The Lyriq, on the other hand, this to me tells me that Cadillac was very serious about what they wanted in their first true EV in the modern age. And when you take a look at how it's been designed, even the small, interactive lights when you are approaching the vehicle at night, just the way the dashboard is designed, the seating material and the comfort, they really put a lot of thought into this, and they weren't playing games. This was not going to be something that, this is just to appease the growing EV market. This is a vehicle that has been designed and engineered to really be a great option if you are looking to buy an EV for the first time, or maybe you're looking to upgrade from another legacy manufacturer, whether it's Ford, Nissan, or Chevrolet. This is, to me, a great first product that I expect the same driving experience, I expect the same quality from the rest of the GM product line. But ultimately, after this pretty lengthy test drive, I'm actually genuinely surprised here with what Cadillac has done. This is really, in my mind, a great product. And if you are somebody looking to buy an EV at around $60,000, have this on your list of considerations, because Cadillac's given you a vehicle that I think feels more premium than the rest of their lineup, which, again, for $60,000, you really can't beat that. So to wrap up my time with the all-new Cadillac Lyriq, am I officially a lyricist for Cadillac's first EV in the 2020s? Personally, I think this vehicle is a great ambassador and first product from Cadillac in the EV world. Now, for the luxury markets as a whole, for the past 25 years, the Germans have owned the segment, whether it was BMW, Audi, or Mercedes-Benz. But the EV markets is really uncharted territory where an outsider like Tesla could completely change the game. And in my mind, with the Lyriq being the first EV from Cadillac, this is setting the tone and also letting rivals know that if you want a piece of the pie in the luxury EV segment, you have to go through Cadillac. When you take a look at the interior quality, the overall design, and the technology, this is a huge leap forward than what we've seen from Cadillac over the last 10 years, outside of maybe the Escalade, which has this same screen setup. But to me, this is a very serious product. That Cadillac isn't just bluffing when it comes to going full EV. They want to take over this market. And you see that the way this vehicle has been developed, the way it drives, the way it performs. That this is really a step up over a gas-powered model. Now, of course, the Lyriq is not going to be sporty or dynamic. It's not designed to be that way. It's supposed to be luxury first. It's supposed to be what a Cadillac is supposed to be offering you. And it's also a vehicle that, in my mind, is targeting a different demographic of consumer. People who've owned an XT5 or XT6 in the past, and they're ready to make that leap into the EV market. And I think the Lyriq is a great option and a great alternative. Also, because of its pricing, it really is placed in a good spot where you could cross-shop it with that Ford Mustang Mach-E and Volkswagen ID4. It undercuts the current EV rivals from BMW, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz outside of the EQE SUV. But really, for a vehicle at around $60,000 to $70,000, this is really fantastic and phenomenal, especially the way it has the technology, the way the interior is shaped around you. This is just a great first product, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Cadillac has in store over the next few years, because if the Lyriq is any indication of what we're going to experience for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm really excited to see what Cadillac has in store, because this, to me, is definitely an eye-opener for sure. And I think that if you are looking at buying an EV right now in 2023, definitely take a look at the Lyriq. It's a great option and a surprising option in this market. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.